This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that chops carrots really good. And now, our feature presentation. All right, this is the Action Cast. I'm Joe Drilling, and yeah, it's that time of year. It's that time of year where we do one of these again. It's been a while, like a long while. When was the last one of these that we did? Who remembers?
I'm not sure. Maybe August, something like that.
I think you guys kept going
Yeah.
a little while after I had to bow out due to, child and grad school and all that compounding on each other.
Yeah, well, let's see. It looks like the last one of these we did was, we did our Van Damme cast this year, Double Impact, which of course outperformed everything else we'd done. Oh wait, no, it didn't. It outperformed almost everything we'd done since the previous Van Damme episode, but in fact has yet to surpass the Godzilla versus the Smog Monster podcast.
Well, Van Damme finally got his match.
Yeah. So, we show up apparently.
That surpassed the Time Cop.
Oh no. Godzilla did not surpass Time Cop or Hard Target. Time Cop is... Okay. We do this every episode, I feel. Time Cop is sitting at 75,000 views. And Hard Target is sitting at 61,000 views for some reason. And everything else is at like 30, 50, 100. So for some reason, Godzilla and the most recent Van Damme one, which was Double Impact, are in the 500s, low to mid 500s. So I'm sure that we'll get literally maybe tens of people watching the one that we're doing right now. But that's not, or listening to, I guess I should say. But that's not important. What's important is that I said I'm Joe Drilling. I said that already, but that's Ethan Chang and that's Bryce Wilson. And we are doing a Christmas action cast because, I felt like even if we took another hiatus, not nearly as long as our, previous hiatus of like many years, but I wanted to do a Christmas one of these. I always had fun doing the Christmas ones of these. And, there's still a bunch of Christmas action movies to do. And hey, Eric Allen is here now too. So,
Hi.
Hey. So,
You guys got everything sorted technically?
Everything is technically sorted.
It's a miracle.
Okay.
Yes, it's Christmas Miracle. So, we're going to talk tonight about The Long Kiss Goodnight, which, it's a movie. It's a movie. But before we get to that, I did actually just really want to quick ask. I haven't yet, but has anybody seen Violent Night yet? Because there is a current modern Christmas action movie in theaters right now.
No. I think I've seen one movie in theaters in the last 2 years.
She was Abby really liked it a lot, but I have not seen it and can't vouch for it. So.
Got it. Okay, so Bryce's wife gives it the seal of approval.
Yeah. She should really probably come out and do this cast because she's, did Long Kiss Goodnight too. So you're stuck with me. So sorry.
Yeah. Well, so it goes.
I've heard people like it.
Yeah, I've heard people like it. Actually, more people like
That.
What's it called?
Spermageddon.
Wow.
It was the person that did the dead. Those.
It was like a moment in time
this.
where there was like shitty stuff in the video store, and it would have a crazy sleeve, and you'd rent it. And then there was like that moment was extended by Netflix having a really small catalog and not being all about reality TV and like shitty documentaries that are released while the story they're covering is still playing out.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like now that's what Netflix is. Like, who's clicking on Spermageddon? Who's watching that?
Someone somewhere, I guess. I don't know, man.
Is it going to be on Shudder?
There's actually a pretty good cross-section of good movies on Shudder.
I was gonna say I feel really positive things about Shudder as well.
Yeah.
Like their hit rate is quite a bit higher than most other streamers.
Yeah.
Shout out film Watcher, which my friend Michael, who is the reason why we covered The Exterminator.
Mm.
He cut that movie.
Oh, nice.
Pretty good.
Nice. That looked really good. It played at my local nonprofit theater, and I didn't get a chance to see it while it was there, but it's on Shudder now, so I will have to check it out. So I don't know. I feel like if we try to cover all of the news that has happened since we last did one of these, it will take a long time. I'm just gonna say that I like Radio Silence
less than they enjoy the average.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that people will enjoy it less than the average news segment. Which
Yeah.
Enjoyed, so.
Right. The only thing I do want to very quickly touch on, because we're all here, is that I like Radio Silence. I think they make mostly pretty good movies. I liked Scream 5, but I'm not sure they're the right people for Escape from Chicago, I guess, is next where we're going, or whatever, or maybe we're just remaking Escape from New York. I don't really know what we're doing with it, but apparently they're the ones doing it, and I don't know. I'm dubious.
I'm just going to be concerned about when I actually fucking see it. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, no thanks. I don't know. That's not one of my favorite movies, so maybe they can do something interesting with it.
I'm just saying I think like since we've been doing the cast in its original iteration, like that's just one of those cursed fucking movies where every time they're like, yeah, we can coming out this time, it's all coming together. Gerard Butler, he's got drones, the script is done, it's gonna be great, and then it just never fucking happens. So like the inertia is against this one.
Yeah, that's true. Not quite to a Mad Max Fury Road level, I don't think.
No.
But maybe we're closing in on that. I don't know. I'm just glad there hasn't been any more news on a Crow remake in the last 6 months that I'm aware of.
Well, that's one thing that happened since the last time we all got together was that Furiosa started filming and I believe has finished filming too. So
really?
That's a dream right there. Dream production.
No.
So.
Yeah. Well, since Fury Road did so well, it's a lot easier for George Miller to get another Mad Max adjacent movie made now, I guess. So
we have a new greatest movie of all time since the last time we talked.
Oh, do we?
That was what all the... Well, yeah, there was like a new Sight and Sound list, right, that came out in November that everybody was all up in arms about.
Oh, yeah, however many years.
I can't new number one was, but...
Well, let's find out.
I never heard of before, I don't think.
Yeah, well...
Was the French movie from the 60s?
Yeah.
Oh, which one? The 400 Blows, or...
No, it was one that I heard of. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion that people have about movies on the internet where I know that I'm not missing anything. French dudes in the 60s are great, and some of them are, maybe lionized a little too much, but...
I believe this one's from French Lady in the 60s. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Jean Dielman, 23 quad to Commerce 1080 Bruxelles at a 1975, directed by Paul Ackerman. No, Vertigo is number 2. I've seen that movie. It's pretty good.
Would you say it's the second best movie of all time?
Yeah. Mulholland Drive was in the top 10, which I thought was a...
that's not even like my favorite David Lynch movie.
No, but it's like just... I don't know. It's more modern than most of the other movies that were on there. There were some other ones like Parasite and... I don't know. It's weird. The only thing that I know about that list is that it is like a 100 best movies list that is assembled by like a bunch of top 10 lists, which seems like a weird way to do that.
Yeah.
As someone who's compiled a few lists, I can tell you that if you do that, you end up with a really wonky list that only has everybody's favorites, but doesn't like there's no Steven Spielberg on that list, and that's why, because if you did everybody's top 50s, there would be a ton of Steven Spielberg movies in the bottom half probably. But if you do just the top 10, then you're going to miss out on some of the more populist directors.
Well,
And it's a weird it it just I don't know what the point of the list is if it doesn't have a lot of the most important, most popular directors on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that it doesn't have like I don't need a list of the best movies to have like
It's true.
Godfather 2 on it. Like
I think that
appreciate
probably
that
is
it's
on
not
that
gonna
list.
It probably is. That's probably a
Yeah.
bad example. A bunch on the AF list.
The Godfather 2 is not on the list, but The Godfather 1 is number 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a weird. It's weird. I don't know. It seems like a lot of work
I
to make a
appreciate that
list
it's-
that it just doesn't. It doesn't. If you're gonna make a list like that, you need to find what the point of the list is, and just here's a list of movies that people like. Then I'm not really sure what what that is serving. But
What it needs to mean is there's a whole bunch of people. Like the only people who are allowed to vote on this list are people who've seen maybe 100 times the number of movies that I have.
yes.
So these are movies that somebody who's watched that many movies put it on their top 10.
Yeah, but those
I
are
did
all
see-
weirdos, Ethan.
I forget what director it was, but there was some director whose list the Twitter was roasting him because the list was like Star Wars, Taxi Driver, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather. Pretty good.
Well, yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things where it just kind of feels
I think-
like, whoever. I mean, it's always going to be something different than what you would pick, right? Because it's not your list. But I do kind of feel like, something like this.
I mean, I guess all of the lists just exist to like give people
can argue about it on the internet.
pattern to that is what they're hoping for, I guess. Although the reason why this list is notable is they've been doing it since like the 50s,
Right.
and so there's like a version of this list that's been put together in every decade for like 70 years or whatever, so you can track what was important to movie critics back even in the earlier days of film in a way that a list that appears on the AV Club or whatever doesn't have that same weight behind it. But
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I don't know. Like I said, as someone who's made some lists, it's more fun if the list has some kind of like narrative arc to it or something.
I mean, it does have the same problem our lists have, where there's like there's 345s and there's
Yeah,
554s
there's like
and there's
20. There's like a 20 way tie for like 65 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's.
But I mean, that's I don't know. It's a weird thing, but I thought that was something that I'd been looking at.
Yeah.
I guess I should watch these movies. I don't know.
Yeah, it's always one of those things where, that is the thing where you look at, especially one with so much esoteric stuff on it, like this one, where you feel like, wow, there's a lot of movies. Like, I consider myself like something of a cinephile, and there's a whole bunch of movies on this list that I haven't seen. So I guess, maybe I'm a big poser, or
I think that short film that 12 Monkeys is.
Yes, that one I have seen. I have seen that.
Yeah, I mean, because we did a podcast about it.
Yeah, well, I saw
like
it.
Weird. Like that's a pretty good short film, but I don't know why it belongs on
The 100
that list.
best.
I guess
movies
people
of all-
like it a lot more than I did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes.
Because there's a million movies like that, right? Like 20-minute long short stories. I don't know. Like I said, the whole thing is strange to me, but
Yeah, I mean, also like, how many? There doesn't feel like there's a lot of directors who appear on this list more than once or twice, and
yeah,
Godard is on here a bunch of times, and I
don't know.
maybe I need
We're
to revisit
participating
some
in-
of those. Well, we are. Maybe I need to revisit some of those French New Wave movies, but like.
Hey,
The ones that I've
hey,
seen, I find
the
kind of.
important thing is he's dead. Dead, but he can't hurt us anymore. So it has a happy ending.
Right. I was gonna say the thing is, I feel like those movies are kind of fucking boring, and I don't like to accuse people of like, oh, you only like that because it's sort of the snobbish film student like movie to like you're supposed to like. Because I'm sure there are people who genuinely love all those Godard movies, and I haven't seen them all, but the ones that I have seen, I'm like, this is, I don't know, man. This is fucking tough road to hoe for me. This is fucking hard, kind of boring watch. But
Well, listen,
Persona
they
making
can
the
watch.
top 10. I think that is that's
Yeah,
one of those
Persona
movies
is
that's
in there.
always on these lists that I think legit is like fucking awesome.
which one?
Persona. Ingmar Bergman.
No, that did
Yeah.
not make the top 10.
Oh,
In fact,
Yeah, it is. It's on here.
not in the top 10. Top 10 is
No?
the Jean Dielman 23 Quad de Commerce 1080 Brochil. Vertigo, Citizen Kane, Tokyo Story, In the Mood for Love, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Beau Travail, Mulholland Drive, Man with a Movie Camera, and Singin' in the Rain. That's the top 10.
how many Rennie Harlan movies on there?
There are, I regret to inform you, there are no Rennie Harlan movies.
How many Michael Mann movies are on there? Because I've been watching a lot of those this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, those are pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. Persona's number 18.
I-
And is the only
Okay.
Bergman film on the list, in fact.
Interesting.
So.
So Heat's at number 17 is what you're telling me.
No, you know
what I
what?
want to know
I
is
also
where
made-
is Collateral on this list?
Yeah.
I need to know.
I did make it a point to also revisit a lot of Michael Mann films this year, and them's good watching, and I think that's going to be the most insightful thing I have to say on this entire podcast.
So I said it before.
Surely.
You should watch those Michael Mann movies.
Yeah, I watched Thief earlier this year because I had never seen it, and I got browbeaten.
Because I was
into
giving
it
you a
by
hard
Eric.
time about it.
Yeah, and it's really good as it turns out, but I still don't think it's better than Heat. That's just my opinion. It's really good though. It's really that's like a very great debut feature.
Are the Coens on there at all? I can't think of like what movie that they made would end up on a
No
movie like
Country
this.
for Old Men might be on. I don't know. I didn't look at the whole list. That's
There's no
one of
Fargo?
theirs that I would think would be
I
on.
say I feel like Fargo or No Country for Old
Although
Men
the actual
would
one
be-
should be Raising Arizona. That's the one that probably should be on there, but I don't know. I didn't. Like I said, I didn't get over the whole list. But Stalker's on there. I like that movie.
I saw Raising Arizona on somebody's list that somebody screenshotted, but that was just one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways,
how many Christmas movies are on the list? That's the real question.
I don't-
Eyes Wide Shut, I think, is on
There you go. That's a Christmas movie.
I just watched
is
that.
Die
the other
Hard on the
day.
list? Because if Die Hard's not on the list, I don't know why. Why
Yeah,
would you even
fuck-
make a list of the
Fuck-
best
fuck
movies that
this
doesn't have
list if
Die Hard on it?
Yeah, if Die Hard's not included.
I'm going to gently.
Did you guys know that,
express I'm just going to say I'm going to gently suggest that instead of the thing that none of us four looked at, we should maybe talk about the thing that all four of us looked at. So,
I didn't watch this movie. I just popped in to say hi.
Well,
the thing that three of the four of us
Yeah.
looked at. So.
well, as it turns out, it's just like any Rennie Harlan movie. It's just okay. And I
That's about the best you can say
that's
about,
about
any
the
of his movies.
that's the best.
yeah.
We were Ethan and I were talking about this before you guys got here, but yeah, I pretty much feel like Rennie Harlan peaks at like watchable.
Yeah.
And he bottoms out at like, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 or Cutthroat Island, which that's actually one of the things that struck me the hardest about this was that the man had just bankrupted Carolco Films, one of the finest purveyors of action cinema in the 80s and early 90s, and they let him make another action movie with his wife, who was also the star of Cutthroat Island, which I will repeat bankrupted Carolco Films. So this is a
I
better.
think this has like we talk about him peaking at watchable, and I don't think he did that often. Like I just don't think.
No, I don't either. This is probably the
Box
best.
Office-
Yeah, this is probably the best
Yeah.
one of his that I've seen, honestly.
That being said, I have to say that I think this movie has enough Shane Black isms in it that it gets above watchable to me to actually enjoyable. So that's going to be my real hard pitch for it. I just love that softball there.
So my takeaway from this, my main, and I didn't take any notes on this movie tonight because my phone battery was basically dead when I sat down to watch it. Because I'm
Yeah, and who has a pen
and who has a
these
pen?
days?
Who has a pen? And then then I was eating dinner, and also like how many notes do I need to take on a Rennie Harlan movie? But my main like sort of takeaway was that while a great director like a David Fincher can make a bad screenwriter like say Aaron Sorkin a watch can make like a good movie out of that. By the same token, a bad
Shots
filmmaker.
fired at Aaron Sorkin.
Oh
Damn.
God, I hate Aaron Sorkin's writing so fucking much, so much. um, a bad director like a Rennie Harlan can make a good writer like a Shane Black like a lot less watchable than I think he otherwise would be. Like I feel like in the hands of Tony Scott or a John McTiernan, or even Shane Black himself, although he was not directing films at this time yet. Like I think there's a better movie here if somebody who isn't Rennie Harlan directs this movie, because like it's like there's a lot of lines that I feel like Black writes as these sort of it's like similar dialogue to what's in a lot of his other movies, but Rennie Harlan directs the actors to be like extremely serious when they're reading this sort of smug, sarcastic dialogue, and to me it just doesn't play.
I'm kind of thing is that I don't go to either pole of the extremities that you do, because I don't think that there's that much of a better movie here. Like, sure, you can maybe get it like another 10%, but I think this is like very much an is what it is thing. And to me, it's not that this thing is like this unsung masterpiece, but that it was a pretty good B movie that turned into an pretty okay B movie. So it's like that range of potential. I guess I just don't feel when I watch it, but I also don't feel like there's a ton of squandered potential here either. So.
Joe, you said before we started talking that you thought that Rennie Harlan's movies, it was Rennie Harlan's movies, not Shane Black's movies, were all like half an hour too long?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So I actually thought while I was watching this, I don't know if I ever said on this show before that early on in COVID, like kind of early to mid COVID so far, I watched with my girlfriend, for whatever reason, made it through 8 seasons of The Blacklist, a show which has one good season and then is just terrible after that. And I thought that this like movie would have been good expanded into an arc of a show like that, like a 1 season arc. Because I was like, it's so plotty, like. I think that it was too long, but I don't know how. Like, you would need to excise a lot from the story to make it shorter, which like wouldn't necessarily hurt it, I don't think. But like, there's a lot of moving
The
parts.
one thing that I really liked about this, well, there's a couple things I liked about this movie, but the one thing that struck me as funny now is it reminded me of just how, and Letterboxd did too, of just how mainstream and normal it used to be to have the CIA be the bad guy in your movie. And nowadays, like, if you have the CIA be the bad guy in your movie, like, they would send John Krasinski to your house to shoot you in the face. So
yeah, right. That's yeah.
Is that
like,
a 9/11 change?
I guess
yeah.
because
Yeah.
You go back to the 70s through Days of Condor even, or Parallax View, like all those things, and then just all the way to the shitty Pulp Fiction of the 90s, and it's just always the big government bad guys, and like that just became verboten to the point where Robert Downey Jr. used to do Shane Black's movies, and now he makes CIA propaganda, so something went awry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is a movie that kind of doesn't really get started until about halfway through. I think there's some stuff on the front end that could probably go if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah,
this movie is
I
2
thought that,
hours
like,
long, and I think it would hum along a lot better at like an hour 45 if you lost some of the exposition.
the stuff in the first half hour where Gina Davis is kind of like seeing flashes of this personality that she has buried inside her. I thought some of that stuff was like so cringy,
Mm-hmm.
like so over the top.
Yes.
Like she looks at herself in the mirror and the reflection back has just like absolutely wild makeup that she, you know, copied off a goth poster or whatever. Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
yeah,
too bad that Gina Davis tied her wagon to Rennie Harlan and then it basically ended her career.
Yeah.
Because I loved Gina Davis and she was so great in A League of Thelma and Louise and then just everything in Beetlejuice and just it all went
Beetlejuice,
off
yeah.
a cliff. Yeah.
Yeah.
After these two movies.
Yeah. She married him. They were married at the time that they made these two movies, and I mean, the IMDb trivia says that it was a bid to try to kind of make more female action stars, which is a thing we've sort of complained about in the past, right?
In the mid 90s?
Yeah, in the mid 90s. And I mean, that's an admirable goal for sure, but maybe make a better movie around it. I don't, especially in the case of Cutthroat Island. I mean, that movie is making a pirate epic in 1995 just seems like, even on paper, that was a horrible idea. And and I'm trying to remember what there was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that got canceled because of that. I last year I bought Total Recall a third time. Sorry,
Mhm.
a fourth time if you include the VHS tape I had when I was a kid. Because the new Blu-ray of Total Recall includes a documentary about like a feature-length documentary about the history of Carolco. And so, obviously, you know, I'm a person who does an action movie podcast on the internet, so I needed to watch the documentary about Carolco Pictures, and I can't remember now, but they talked about it in that documentary about how there was an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe it was the version of Minority Report that was going to be sort of rewritten to be a sequel to Total Recall. That was sort of in development at one point. But it was something that you know.
And I know that Harlan and Schwarzenegger were trying to make like a Crusader movie for a long time.
Oh, that was it. That was it. It was a movie about yes. It was the Arnold Schwarzenegger Crusades epic that they were.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
maybe it's for the best. I don't know.
yeah.
I'd watch the shit out of that movie, and I'm not even gonna front.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have watched the shit out of it.
The Austrian man in Minnesota be the giant Austrian man in the Promised Land.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, I guess for anybody who's listening to this, which is currently nobody, who hasn't seen it, this is a movie about Gina Davis as a teacher and a single mom, but she's in a long-term relationship with a guy who's got kids of his own, and she can't remember anything from more than 8 years ago, and it turns out that she is actually like a super badass CIA assassin who got shot in the head and therefore memory loss, and therefore, you know, then she's driving home from a Christmas party because Shane Black, and she hits a deer, and
is it a reindeer? I think the answer
no,
is
no,
yes. I would say definitively the answer is yes.
It just must be a reindeer because this is a Christmas movie.
It's Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that joke was better because it was repeated 4 times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So I thought that scene. So she's thrown out of the front of the car. What is that? Is it like her father-in-law? She's in the car with.
I don't remember who that dude. I mean, he like cops a feel on her in the car, so I hope it's not her father-in-law or whatever, her boyfriend's dad or whatever. He's the guy who was Santa Claus, I think, in the Christmas parade with her.
Oh, okay. So he's like a guy from town.
Yeah, he's just yeah.
Uh, yeah, that guy is doing some shenanigans, putting his arm over her face. She crashes into a reindeer, and then like snakes into a tree. She flies out of the car. He dies, I guess.
I
Like they,
mean, the car burns and she doesn't pull him out of it, so
yeah,
I guess
but
so.
she does. I thought this was the best scene of the movie actually, or the part of the scene where they communicate without any words that this like other person has been awakened in her because she identifies that this reindeer is in pain and just walks over to the reindeer and snaps its neck, and
Hmm.
there's like a good music cue there.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a movie that's like dumb, they wouldn't do they wouldn't do something like that now where they don't tell you what you're supposed to be getting from that scene, but like it's communicated. I liked that.
Yeah, I mean that is true. There's a lot of movies now that like sort of over explain every single thing that happens in a way that I feel frequently is not necessary.
I'd
Movie.
argue that the one legitimately great scene in the movie is the one where she's on the water wheel, and every time she comes up, that part of her personality is up a little bit more. It's just a really kind of creative way to build that narratively and in the action scene, and in all that. And and yeah, it's a genuinely well directed scene that Harlan managed not to fuck up. So
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a good scene.
Yeah, and it also involves her fishing around in Brian Cox's pants for a gun, which is great. So, um, yeah, I mean, I still think it's weird that if she is concerned about the animal suffering, she doesn't go and like pull the guy out of the burning car before he's incinerated. Although I guess they never make it super clear if he did die or not. But
I think maybe she doesn't know. She kind of becomes a different person on upon landing, so maybe she doesn't know there's a guy in there.
yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing that I didn't. That's kind of the thing that I didn't love about this movie, and I don't know if that's on the if that was on Shane Black's page or if that's just a symptom of Harlan's direction and potentially maybe uncredited rewrites or whatever. But like the thing where she just turns into a completely different person, like she's it's like she's got a multiple personality thing instead of amnesia. Like it's not like she remembers who she is. It's like she remembers that she used to be an asshole, and so then she becomes an asshole.
well, the way that I kind of interpret that is they suggest that she was like indoctrinated like very early, so it's more like it's not so much she's a different person as like the chance to be the person that she would have been had she not been into this stuff. So I feel like there's groundwork laid for that.
A little, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sold on there being like great groundwork for just like the sort of almost like light switch change from Sam to Charlie, and kind of back again. Um,
As
but
part of the transition too, she basically like well, I mean, it's like as the movie goes on, I feel like I get more and more used to the performance, or maybe the performance gets better. I don't know if that really makes sense, but like in the first like 20 minutes of the movie where she's changing into Charlie, I feel like she's just like in maximum annoying like badass mode, like doing the Kubrick stare, like talking so stilted and so cardboard in a way that like somebody at the time thought was like badass.
Rennie Harlan.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, so someone whose first language is not English, so you know.
And then they have these like major tone shifts. Like I think isn't it like the scene after that where she's cutting the carrots,
yeah.
and that's like and then like her like having two personalities is played for laughs. She's like, well, first of all, when she figures out that she has knife skills, she starts out using like a rocking push cut and then they cut away, and she's like, "Look, I can cut a carrot," and then you cut back to her, and then she's doing a chop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, it's gonna be one or the other. You're not gonna be doing both.
Right.
But yeah, they play it like as a goof,
Right.
and then like in the next scene it's there's like another scene that's like maybe right before or right after that where there's like a jump scare where like the evil killer version of her like lunges at her in a mirror or something like that. Very strange tonally.
Yeah, it's well, so let me see. So she cuts the carrot and then the leeks or whatever and then the tomato and then she like throws the knife and sticks the tomato to the wall.
Oh
Um
right, yeah.
and then like so her husband her boyfriend is like kind of weirded out by that. And then uh yeah, there's like a moment. Well, there's definitely a moment later when they're in Atlantic City where her like the mirror is that in Atlantic City when there's a moment where her no, it's when they're in the hotel when she's in the hotel with Sam Jackson and her the Charlie like leaps out of the mirror and cuts her throat
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking
and
about.
then
Yeah.
she shoots at Sam Jackson because she's like wigging out, right? And that's like yeah, it's sort of like it's like the old personality is taking over and I don't know. I mean again like this is probably the best of the Rennie Harlan films I've seen, but it still has some of that stuff in there where I'm just like this just doesn't work for me. It's it's too much. I kind of like you were saying, Ethan. I don't know. The role that he sort of always sort of always plays. um,
Me and Sam Jackson.
yeah, yeah. Um, so that's great, but it's just it's also one of those like the machinery of this conspiracy is so large that it kind of stops being believable, but I don't think that the sort of action beats are fun enough to make up for how silly that stuff is. I mean, that's the big problem for me, honestly, is that the action beats are very jump cutty, smash cutty. The geography is all over the place. It's some of the stuff is just I mean, there's some good stuff like where she shoots a guy in a helicopter, and the other guy who's in the helicopter like then because his buddy got shot, he accidentally like fires off a signal flare into his chest and like completely lights a blaze and falls out of the helicopter and then gets caught in a bunch of Christmas lights and then like
Yeah, and then the
5 minutes
payoff to
later
that is outstanding. That is like one of the best. That's really it's just really beyond above and beyond. I
Mhm.
was not expecting this movie to give me that.
Yeah.
We may as well skip ahead since there's how many people are watching the stream?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Two. There are two
we have
people
not
watching.
basically what we were learning from Joe's speech earlier is that we just chose a very bad movie to come back on. It's just a film that is pretty much mediocre and nobody feels passionately about. So, oops.
Yeah, we
But
could have.
if we don't
Action
know
cast,
if
a well-run machine as always.
somebody might there could be some kind of keyword here that triggers this to go berserk like the two Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Yeah, but
so we may as well.
if you look at the watch time on those, it's like 1 minute. Like people watch for and then people complain in the comments like they thought we had posted the whole movie for free or something. It's like
Oh yeah, that's why they click on it because well, why don't they think that's the case with the other movies?
yeah, I don't know. That's the weird thing, right?
Yeah.
One thing I will say, my favorite little detail of this movie, and this is again showing us that we're kind of grasping at straws here, is that the entire thing, aside from the ending in Niagara Falls, is supposed to be in America, but it very clearly shows its Toronto roots by having very clearly in the background honest ads of Scott Pilgrim name
Uh-huh.
in the background of a street shot. So rest in peace, Honest Eds. You are sorely missed, and I'm glad that you're forever resurrected in this okayish movie that is really you're missing out because it's an ideal form to be watched is in a hotel room halfway over on TBS. So
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, so all right, so the guy gets lit on fire in the helicopter, falls out of the helicopter, gets tangled in some lights, and Ethan, I feel like you're very excited about this, so you should just describe the payoff.
Well, I don't know if I could. So I think like she so there's the bad guy in the helicopter who is the guy who when she was like evil or whatever used to be like was it like when he was good? Yeah,
No, no,
she
no,
was
no, no,
she was a
no.
secret agent or
She was supposed to kill his boss, like David. What's that actor's name?
Morse.
David Morse. It was his boss, and she was supposed to kill both of them, I guess. And then now, because of budget cuts, I'm actually surprised, Ethan, you don't have more to say about the politics of this movie and like the CIA stuff and the president saying, well, your budget is going to healthcare and all of that stuff that happens. But yeah, because there were budget cuts, CIA budget cuts, quote unquote, he had to bring in some of the bad guys, and they now have planned this false flag terror attack, which I also think is hilarious because they're
Are they trying to get more funding? Is that why
yes,
they did that?
yes, they invoke the first World Trade Center bombing.
They don't just they explicitly that the first World Trade was a false flag thing, because that used to be the vaguely liberal sentiment instead of like the arch conservative
wing
sentiment.
nut conservative.
I think someone could write a fucking fantastic book about way conspiracy theories went from being a totem of the left to a totem of the right, because like it's fucking like for those of us who were alive in the 90s, like it used to be like the Oliver Stone, like badge of honor to believe in conspiracy theories.
It was always some weird hippie living in a trailer in the middle
Yeah.
of the woods someplace that
Yep.
was like a secret communist or whatever that always
Oh,
believed in all the crazy
Alex
conspiracies.
Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I always forget. Someone mentioned this recently because it was I don't remember. I think it was on the QAnon Anonymous podcast, which
Oh,
is
boy.
a very fun conspiracy podcast.
I gotta go to bed.
Well, they're not QAnon believers.
Uh-huh.
But they
you just listen to it to keep up with the news, so you know what the people who aren't on the inside are saying about
Right.
what you
Yeah.
hold dear in
right.
your heart.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. No, but they talked about how they reminded me that Alex Jones was in some movies by oh my god.
Linklater,
Yeah,
He's in
Richard
both
Linklater.
He's
Yeah.
in both Waking Life and in
Scanner Darkly.
So.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
wait, what?
He's speaking the truth in Scanner Darkly, and government agents come and pull him into a black van.
Mhm.
So.
What the fuck?
Because he was just this weird dude from Austin who talked about weird conspiracy theories, and Linklater is also from Austin and kind of a weird dude, and so yeah, he's in Waking Life and Scanner Darkly.
Listen,
That's
the only way
crazy.
to fight a government conspiracy is to give more power to the government, I guess.
Right.
As far as I can tell.
So the false
That
flag
seems to be their, I don't know.
Yeah, the false flag here is that they're putting a large bomb in a tanker truck, which
And the guy's butt. Oh.
No, sadly no. That's see, if Tony Scott had directed this movie, this is exactly what I was saying. They put a bomb in a tanker truck, and
Recently, that
They're gonna
movie was
blow
supposed
up.
to.
They're gonna blow. Well, like I love. They're like, yeah, we'll get it at peak saturation when it's at midnight, and it's like they're showing like cuts like a Christmas parade and shit. It's like, who's taking their kid to a Christmas parade at midnight? What the
Catholics, man, you're Catholic, you should know this. Midnight Mass.
Fine. Well, they're not going to a midnight mass. They're like all milling around out of the street.
Well, maybe they're about to go to the midnight mass. The parade ends at the church, then they go to the midnight
Right.
mass.
Yeah, right.
I'm not buying this.
But
Look, the false flag storyline is not important. This kill is what's important.
well, okay.
And
Finish talking about the kill and the payoff then.
So previously, like you were saying, 5 minutes prior, she shoots into a helicopter, and I guess somebody else who maybe is like not the person she hits, I'm not clear, sets off a flare, sets himself on fire. immediately turns into a human fireball, falls out of the helicopter and gets tangled up in these Christmas lights, which suspend him there for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Minutes later, the bad guy, who's the guy she used to be in a relationship with when they were both evil or whatever, I don't care. But she has to kill him, and she has promised him earlier in the movie that he will die screaming. That's in the water wheel scene. She says that to him. He's like shooting down at her from the helicopter. She looks up and sees this still burning body, like charred body, hanging from the Christmas lights, and somehow understands that she can grab like a chunk of like a handful of the Christmas lights, and then I guess, what does she do? Like
she
throw
cuts
something
them.
up?
She cuts the. It's like a pulley system of some sort, except
Yeah.
it's not. She cuts something, and that sends her flying up, and the body coming
Yeah,
down.
it for whatever, I think it's like the body was on some chain or Christmas lights, whatever, and was caught up on something. So she cuts whatever is holding up this body. The body falls, and then is like a ballast that shoots her into the air. And as the body is going down and she's moving up, she reaches into the fireball and pulls out an automatic, like an MP5 SMG or whatever, a movie type gun, which would be so hot,
Right.
that, like, there
Her
would be
hand
no-
would instantly burn. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's rocketed up into the air, and then like from whatever 20 feet in the air, shoots the bad guy in the helicopter, and he falls out and is screaming, and then she says, "Die screaming, motherfucker," which I thought was a really good action one-liner. Doesn't get much more straightforward than that.
No, it really
I
doesn't.
mean,
That's
think-
like you're terminated, fucker. Level, at least not as good.
Not
but
as
like,
good as that.
You know,
we talk about like the action and everything being sloppy and the geography being bad. To give credit, like that, this movie's got some really good bad action. Like earlier, there's the scene where some grenades are being tossed around, and those grenades are like loosing out like huge fireballs that like
Yes,
look like
yeah.
something from a thermonuclear device,
Mhm.
and just no logical sense, but entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah. Sorry, now I don't remember. I feel like Eric or Bryce, you were saying something about a different movie that you just recently learned, and I wanted to hear the end of that thought. But then-
Oh, Man on Fire! The original ending for that movie was supposed to be that Denzel put a bomb in his own butt and then found the guys that were responsible, and then like went into the house and blew everybody up.
Are you?
So,
I feel like you're making that up, but I want that to be true.
I don't even remember where I heard
I
that,
believe
but-
I've also heard that piece of trivia before, so I can
Okay.
at least confirm that the Mandela effect exists.
I don't remember seeing that when we did that movie for the Action Cast like 5 years ago, but I read it somewhere recently and was like, maybe.
That was like 10 years ago, dude.
Whatever.
Yeah, but I
It's not
mean,
that I think that we're maybe being a little rough on some of the earlier scenes. Like I think, for example, the one where like the Charlie site starts coming out while she's teaching her kids to ice skate is like pretty entertaining. Like life is pain, get used to it. It's a pretty good
What
change
if-
in the back line.
The ice skating kid had a bomb in his butt.
There you go.
Just saying.
Like, look, this isn't the nice guys. You know, this
Okay.
doesn't have that just like that entertainment on entertainment like level of density here. But you know,
yeah.
I do think it's kind of funny how like in a movie like what's the movie where the same amnesia stuff happens with Matt Damon that I can't think of now?
The Bourne
That
Identity.
revolutionized shaky cam. Yeah.
Yeah, Bourne Identity.
Like the stuff that he like figures out about himself in that movie all kind of makes sense. Like he, figures out that he can chop a guy's throat or whatever. I love that she learns that she's a really good ice skater. That's something that she would have learned as a secret agent.
So according to IMDb, there is supposed to be a scene in there where she does like a double axel and like does a flip and shoots a bunch of bad guys like midair, but
man.
the compositing didn't look good. And that is the thing with this movie. The compositing, there's a lot of bad 90s sort of CG composite shots that look spectacularly awful. And in fact,
this is why I needed a director than Harlan, because you lose the ice skating shot.
Right. But like the bad guy It's very similar to the end of Ninja Turtles 3 where the bad guy falls into water and it doesn't even splash.
That's
It's like
not,
he's just absorbed into the water.
that's not a good comparison.
No, it is not.
Yeah, that's
He falls down and then is just like consumed, like he's just composited into the water, like in post production. Like,
Which you're talking about? That was Craig Bierko.
yeah, when they're
The
like
guy-
in the
isn't
net.
That who she? Is that not like she shoots him out of the helicopter, right? He comes back after that.
Yes, he falls in.
Yeah.
Right, they're struggling in that like cargo net. He falls in the water, and then he climbs out of the water, and then that's when she shoots him, and he dies screaming after
Yeah, that
grabbing the
was-
gun from the fireball man, Human Torch.
One thing
So-
talking about the bad guys in this movie, one entertaining thing that we kind of skipped over is, and speaking of Shane Black, that the first henchman who recognized that would be the one, yes.
Okay, yeah,
The one who
yeah.
just like comes through and just bellows out, "I'm missing my eye!" Like quite, it's just the thundering amounts of text in this movie are kind of just wonderful.
Speaking of characters in this movie who die early, I felt very robbed when Brian Cox was killed, and I think I kind of like looked away from the screen when he was killed. So there's the water wheel scene, which we've jumped all over the movie at this point, but she gets dunked in the water wheel, and there's somebody's body, like a dead body, in the water that makes her kind of like scream underwater, and I didn't understand until like maybe the second time that she went down that was supposed to be Brian Cox, because it was like, was Brian Cox like not willing to get into the water and like hold his breath for a second? Like, did they use a dummy there? Because it did not look like him at all.
I mean, he's supposed to look dead, right? So I think that was part of it. But yeah, I'm almost positive they used a dummy.
Yeah.
On that, yeah.
I'd like to note that it says something that Brian Cox has the best line in the movie, and that line is about a dog's asshole, and maybe that's all you really need to know
Yeah,
about the long
that's
Kiss
that feels like a
Goodnight.
Shane.
Beats
That's a
with the dog
Shane.
asshole.
That's a Shane Black. Whatever is in the dog's asshole is either gone or is not going anywhere. Yeah. Yep.
depends on what the dog's been eating.
Yeah.
The dog's been eating chicken bones, and it's definitely not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, Shane Black was the first screenwriter to sell a script for $4 million with this script, and
Mhm.
gotta say, I'm actually like quite curious. Like, what does Shane Black's original script of this look like before it was made by Rennie Harlan? Like, I'm like deeply curious. I wonder if that's one of the many scripts that's like floating around online.
I just cannot convince myself that it's all that different. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, like, this just like very much plays like the Long Kiss Goodnight, where it's just like so brass and like unrelenting, and like it's not as entertaining as that, because like Long Kiss Goodnight's the equivalent of like your dad catching you smoking and like making you smoke a carton, and like this doesn't reach that like level of just like, again, like genuine derangement.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which movie are we? Which movie are you comparing it to?
I was sorry, I was comparing it to The Last Boy Scout. I meant to say,
Last Boy Scout, yeah.
That dad brain is real. That's all I can tell you guys.
Yeah.
If you would like to, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is the best thing I've ever done. But if you would like to know what it's like to be exhausted for 14 months straight, go ahead and ask me, and then ask me to reel off someone's filmography is a little bit cruel. But point being is that like, yeah, this like I don't know, like to me, like whenever you see like a script that's been like really boulderized or cut, like you can kind of sense it around the edges, and like I don't feel like there's a scene here that didn't play out exactly how Shane Black wrote it, but that's just my sense. I don't know, maybe he.
I mean, I feel like the dialogue is there, but again, like they play it. Usually, I'm a fan of playing it straight. Like the straighter you play it, the better it works. But I think a lot of times Shane Black is writing characters who are sarcastic or who are.
This is a guy who ended his Predator film with the line, "I want it in a 42 long." So it's not like he's like infallible. Like Shane Black is more than capable of writing a mediocre ass movie, you know. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know, but I don't know. Um, but apparently, the little girl, the daughter, is also in the Nice Guys and also in Iron Man 3. So there you go. There's your little.
good to see a little loyalty.
Yeah, you learned something today.
She's still a child in those movies, or
No, she would.
I thought maybe we had a confirmed vampire sighting. But...
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I feel like some movies in the editing room, when they have a child that really can't emote at all, they kind of like hide that kid in the edit. In this movie, they did not do that. In this movie, she is just like the most like steely, battle-hardened kid like possible.
Yeah.
She like does the on your feet soldier thing to Gina Davis. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, she's actually has like maybe one of the best performances in the movie, and I usually don't think kid actors are very good performers, but yeah, she's
What happened?
she's
What
good.
happened in between the water wheel scene and where she grabs the machine gun and shoots the guy out of the helicopter, and tells him die screaming motherfucker.
The CIA decides they're gonna kill her. Oh, we didn't finish talking about the false flag. So the whole the scheme of the false flag is that there's some sort of chemical reaction happening in this tanker, and when it reaches critical mass, it just explodes, which kind of makes it sound like it's a nuke, like a dirty bomb, but it's clearly not. And they're gonna park this truck in the middle of this small town near Niagara Falls or whatever, and vaporize 4,000 people, so that they can get more CIA funding, and which of course is ironic because like the people you would be catching are yourselves. Then you are the terrorists that you then need to catch, and at the time this movie came out, killing 4,000 people in a terrorist attack would definitely have been the deadliest terror attack on U.S. soil at the time. So, like,
I do like the Shane Blackism of the I don't know how you fake killing 4,000 people, so we're just gonna do it. That's a decent one.
That is that. Yeah, it is. But the thing that gets me is that the device that they are using to cause this chemical reaction in the truck is far more complex than anything that like a Muslim extremist would use. Like it's like, I mean, you know, obviously this is pre 9/11, which is where they used box cutters to hijack planes and just flew airplanes into things. But like, it's this like high tech digital readout chemical. I mean, it's utterly insane. Like, it doesn't make any sense that you would. This is something you would use to try to fake a terror attack because it's far too sophisticated for, you know, like a Bin Laden helmed attack. You know, like it should be like a fertilizer bomb or whatever. But the big thing is, well, once the chemical reaction starts, you can't stop it, and so she can't just. Which is, I mean, that's good writing on Black's part, which is like, okay, there's the bomb in the tanker, and then they put her daughter in the tanker, so she can't just like drive the tanker away and let it blow up somewhere where there aren't any people because her daughter is like locked in this compartment on the side of it, so she has to like, you know, either find a way to disable it, which they say is not possible, and to its credit, also like they don't just magically disable the bomb, which I appreciate. But so she has to like reckon with the explosion, which I think is clever writing, but also again it's at the cost of this like this truck has a digital readout on the side talking about how close to explosion it is for some reason. So
Yeah, I liked when they put that like canister, that like precisely
Yes.
machined
Yes,
lab equipment
yes.
in the side of that just like tanker truck.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's some science supply company that makes, side of tanker truck catalyst injectors, and they make it to an extremely high standard.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Also, Eric, according to IMDb, the book of matches that Gina Davis uses to light a trail of kerosene is from
Mhm.
Tops.
Okay. I mean, if they're supposed to be in Western New York, then that makes sense
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
because that's
so
our
to
grocery store chain.
answer Ethan's one question, there is also the scene of Samuel L. Jackson trying to talk her out of like going full Charlie, and kind of find it funny that we haven't talked about Samuel L. Jackson much because I mean maybe there's nothing else to say beyond what we said, which is just it's like just an extremely Samuel L. Jackson part, but like it doesn't mean he's not doing well and even like putting various shades into the character that I appreciate, and so many of Black's films have that black and white dynamic, and like I think this is actually a pretty good entry in that. So I don't know. I kind of enjoy this era of Samuel Jackson before he had completely ossified into just doing the Nick Fury thing, and I think it's kind of rare that you get to see that side of him anymore. So I'm giving a thumbs up to him in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
We
a good
actually
man.
barely talked about him, but yeah, he is. Um, he is like pretty delightful in this movie, and he has some good Shane Black one-liners like. Yeah, I'm a Mormon. That's why I just smoked half a pack of cigarettes and drank 3 vodka tonics. Um,
That's a good one.
yeah, and stuff like that. So like he's, I mean, like as you said, I mean, he's also like Nick Fury is also kind of him playing himself, to an extent, but uh,
Right. He gets. You're talking about how you don't feel like most of the actors found the correct like Shane Black register because of Harlan's direction, and I agree with you to a certain extent. But I think like Jackson's the exception to that,
yes,
where like I said,
yes,
his performance could like slot right into the Nice Guys or whatever, like or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang very easily.
yes, absolutely, and also the part where he's telling the story of how he ended up in prison and talking about how all these bonds disappeared and all of a sudden these cops showed up and where were they? In my closet. And she's like, "Oh, I can't believe he framed you." He's like, "Oh no, I stole them." Like, that's like that's a pretty good moment. Yeah, he definitely strikes the right tone, and like when he's talking to Larry King at the very end, like yeah, he definitely understood the assignment, as the kids say these days, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But yeah, I don't know. It like there's just some things where again, like I feel in the hands of a different director. Like the you mentioned earlier, I think it was Bryce or maybe it was Ethan mentioned that like a single hand grenade gets thrown like up the steps at them, and then when it explodes with the force of like it destroys the entire top floor of a building. Like it's
I mean, maybe it's just a really good hand grenade. How do you know?
like a fireball chases them down an
Yeah,
entire hallway.
that's an S tier hand grenade, man.
Yeah, apparently.
We didn't. Speaking of people being blown away by explosions, I think we also didn't mention. I think what I thought was the second best, like insane set piece action like
Is it
sequence,
Samuel L. Jackson being
which is
saved from the bad guys?
yes, maybe I don't know. Yeah, he's about to be murdered, but Gina Davis and her daughter are in the basement. They've been locked in like an industrial freezer, and they escape by filing a groove into the floor under the door and draining some kerosene, I
Yeah,
guess,
they filled
under the
they
groove.
filled a peeing baby doll with kerosene so that they and then make the
Yes.
baby doll pee on the floor a bunch of
Yeah, the doll
kerosene.
pees kerosene. She lights the kerosene, and there's like big kerosene barrels there conveniently. It lights those, blows the door open, but also like blows the canisters up, I guess, multiple floors of this building.
Mm-hmm.
They crash through the floor, and somehow blasts Samuel L. Jackson backwards in his chair. He flies out the wall blows out. He flies out of the wall or through the window or something.
Through the window.
I guess goes
through
like,
the neon
through
sign.
the sign
yeah.
of the hotel.
Yes. And into the trees.
But it's okay because he hits a tree at like 200 miles an hour, and
it doesn't shatter his
you're
spine
okay.
in a million pieces for some reason.
And then immediately upon landing, he
shoots
kills
a bad
guy
guy.
by
throws a knife.
throwing a knife into his throat. Which, like, I feel like they hadn't established at that point that he like had any of those skills. So
I mean, he was a cop in Atlanta for several years, and everybody knows that Atlanta cops get knife throwing training.
Yeah,
it's just like the opening to Evil Dead 2. I have no idea why any of you have problems with this.
Oh no, I didn't have. It was my. I thought it was the second. It's an action movie podcast.
I mean, it does. It honestly does.
One of the top couple action
It's
scenes.
maybe a little sillier than some of the moments in The Nice Guys, but I feel like that particular like comedic beat would not have been especially out of place in something like The Nice Guys. Or
as Samuel L. Jackson said in a later film, "Aim for the bushes." So.
Yeah.
Oh, no one got that. No one saw the other guys. Okay, whatever. It's fine. It's a great. It's maybe not a great movie, but that's a great scene. So.
Isn't that the one where he died? He dies, right? Him and
yes, they
the
die
Rock,
after
right?
aiming for the bush. He and the Rock both die after aiming for the bushes. So.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's not high on my list of Shane Black movies, but I feel like any Shane Black movie, any Shane Black's lowest point, I think, is at least watchable. Even The Predator, which I feel was probably butchered in the edit. Like Bryce, you were saying earlier, you can kind of feel when something isn't right, and like that movie felt like, I was telling Ethan this before we started recording, but like that movie felt like there were, like, I felt like I missed major chunks of story in that movie to keep it under 120 minutes or whatever it was. Like, I would really like to see Shane Black's like cut of that movie, because I feel like it's probably better, but I still thought it was fine. It's probably the weakest of the non-AVP Predator movies, but it's still like watchable,
I think we can safely say that the first Shane Black film is better than the best Rennie Harlan film, and this unfortunately is just the point where those two
they converge.
This is funny that I just read on the Wikipedia. I was going to say that so Samuel L. Jackson's one-liner toward the end of the movie is where he is like, you don't see him die, which means that of course he's not dead because it's an action movie, but like you're like, he's like kayfabe presumed dead.
Mm-hmm, right.
And then he what does he do? He hears the girl screaming or whatever, or like I don't remember, but he like wakes up from his state of almost deadness and then drives the car over to Gina Davis and the daughter to save them. But he like, I think he's like in a car that's like in a trailer.
It's the car that they're going to use. Yeah, the car is in a trailer because the CIA is going to put the car, like they're going to make it look like the guy the frozen Arab gentleman.
Oh, right.
They're going to put the car in the quarry like it spun out when he was trying to get away. And so he's the one that they're framing for I don't know where Samuel L. Jackson fits into that, but...
yeah, I assumed I like blinked for a second and that explained how he gets in the car.
Well, he looks at it as he's like fading out, so I don't know if the bad guys put him in there or if he like used his last bit of strength to get himself in there, planning to do that. That's not clear.
Yeah, but he hits the gas, busts out of the trailer.
There's a really bad CG cop jumping out of the way.
Right, and he says, "You can't kill me, motherfucker," or something like that. And I just saw
the tree
down in the production section of the Wikipedia, I guess he in the original cut died, and somebody in the test audience stood up and said, "You can't kill Sam Jackson." So I was thinking that when he said that, it was like he's kind of talking to the audience, or he's like, he's breaking the fourth wall a little bit. So
Yeah.
confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel like he's making this noble sacrifice, right? He talks about how earlier in the movie, he talks about how he's never done one good thing in his entire life, and then he is sort of repeating to himself, like, do this one thing right, do the one right thing, as he's, like, trying to save the daughter and gets shot a couple times by the bad guys. And so, yeah, it kind of felt like that's his noble sacrifice, his redemption from being, a corrupt cop and a bad father and a, scuzzy private investigator and this, that, and the other. But yeah, then he lives. So I guess it's not it's a Final Fantasy IV
shot of him, so he's not dead.
That's right. Yeah, it's a Final Fantasy IV noble sacrifice.
Yeah, calls him a spoony bard and then turns into a statue. Yep.
This is the inspiration for the scene in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang where Abraham Lincoln and everyone comes back in the hospital room. Looking at Shane Black's writing credits, I know as I was much mocked in the original incarnation, I do not like Last Action Hero, not even a little bit. And that's the only movie I think I'd rank below on this. But other than that, the theory stands of the Harlan Black nexus. So
sorry, I don't think we defended Last Action Hero against you. I think everybody was pretty much in agreement. The Last Action Hero kind of sucks. I feel like
Alex came out.
Anthony, I kind of liked it. Yeah.
I feel like that
movie was better on rewatch than it was when I watched it originally when I was a kid. I thought.
I remember that being one of the classic Alex Bryce dust-ups. So.
That's possible. That's definitely possible. I feel like the movie within the movie is. Like, that is like a decent satire of action movies, and you don't need all the weird audience insert little kid shit. Like, that's
hella bloated.
Yeah,
but there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some decent stuff in there, but the movie within the movie is like all it took for me. Like, if the movie was just the fake movie, that would have worked fine for me. Like, I didn't need the shit with the kid, but I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch.
I don't know.
Is that solely? Yeah, there's also
last time I saw it, which was when I was maybe 12 years old.
Yeah, there's also 4 people credited with writing that. So, I'm gonna let Shane Black skate a little bit with 25% of the writing credits.
You did like.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, technically has a credit on Lethal Weapon 2, and he very notoriously did not write that movie, or had his original script for it kind of thrown on the garbage heap. So, actually, one of the more interesting ones, and this is a movie that I don't think I'm pretty disenchanted with Marvel at this moment. I think like a lot of people are. It's hard for me to really get excited about going back and revisiting it. But what I'll say is, I think Iron Man 3's best scenes make up for its weaker ones. Apparently, one of the interesting rewrites that they had is they literally Guy Pearce's entire role was just done in after shoots because Marvel didn't think that a female villain would be compelling enough. So that's just one of the shittier Feige films. It was originally supposed to be Rebecca Ferguson behind everything, and that got taken out in post essentially. So
wow, that does suck, especially since Guy Pearce isn't that good of a villain in that, right? But
it's just kind of there.
Yeah, the Ben Kingsley stuff in that movie is fantastic.
Agreed. I like all the small town stuff, and it's got some great blackisms in it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know.
And it takes place at Christmas, so
yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. It was written by Shane Black. That's how you can tell Last Action Hero isn't a true Shane Black movie. It doesn't take place at Christmas.
Hey, neither does Last Boy Scout, and only the last scene in Nice Guys does.
Yeah, that's true. Last scene in Nice Guys. I think it's not as prominent as in his other movies, but I actually think doesn't Last Boy Scout actually does take place around Christmas, doesn't it?
I just remember that being one of my disappointments in watching The Last Boy Scout is I didn't watch it relatively late, and I saved it for the Christmas season because I found a DVD at a garage sale or something like that. realized it wasn't a Christmas movie and got very embittered during it because of that reason. So
So Shane Black's Wikipedia actually notes that in the script for The Last Boy Scout, it did take place at Christmas, but it was lost in that.
Okay.
There you go.
That's and I'm not making
Which is
a
a
joke.
shame
It
because-
literally says that.
No, I believe you. I absolutely believe that 100%. So why would Tony
came
Scott
out-
not want all those colored lights? Like
It came out in December, but it didn't have any Christmas stuff in it.
Yeah,
so.
because it takes place during the NFL season, so it would
Yeah.
be an absolute natural to have it. So, as the player says right before he shoots himself, "Ain't life a bitch?" So,
Yeah. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. I feel like I need to do a rewatch.
that opening is pretty incredible.
Last Boy Scout. The whole
Yeah.
thing, I like
I've
that
never
movie
seen
a
it.
lot. I think that's honestly one of my favorite Tony Scott movies, and it's one of my favorite Shane Black.
Honestly,
scripts.
the next time we do that, we ought to next time we come back, we ought to do The Last Boy Scout. I think we'd have a lot more to say about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say we never actually did that movie,
And
did we?
I don't
During
think
the original run?
we haven't done a Bruce Willis tribute
Yeah,
yet.
that's true.
Uh,
That is true. We should.
He is still alive, yeah.
He is, but he
Yeah,
retired. He
but
retired
he's
from acting.
retired.
He retired from
Yeah,
acting.
yeah.
Yes.
Although apparently
Yeah.
he had about 500 fucking movies already in the can because they keep coming out.
They're
so
still coming out, yeah. I don't know.
Is The Last Boy
Anyways,
Scout, where does that rank in terms of Damon Wayans movies against The Great White Hype?
it's a little bit better than that one.
I love
say.
The Great White Hype.
How do you feel
I
about
might be
Blank
the only
Man?
one.
What about
I've
Major
never
Pain?
I've never seen Blank Man.
I remember liking Blank Man when I was a kid, but I probably wouldn't like it if I
Major
watched
Pain?
it now.
No.
I will
Hey,
say
Bam Bam
that-
Bigelow is in Major Pain.
Say what you will about it, but it does rank pretty high up on my Tony Scott list. Although
Yeah.
I don't quite have the affection for Tony Scott that some do. So
I mean, this came up again recently with like friends of mine, and that I play bar trivia with, and I was saying I think I will maintain that I think that Tony Scott is more like Ridley Scott has a couple of movies that are just like absolute all timers.
Good movies. Yeah.
But I think Tony's more consistent. Like I like more
I
of
mean-
Tony's movies than I do of
Yeah.
Ridley's movies.
I would go hard for those late Tony Scott movies like your Deja Vu's and your Unstoppables and Taking It All 1 to 3s. And you're like, oh, it's so he goes like so far with the editing, and like I just do not enjoy the physical process of watching those movies. Like
That's a little true. I actually think his remake of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 is fine. Like
Yeah, but why would you watch that when you could watch
when you
the
watch the original
original Pelham 1, 2, 3?
right.
Yeah.
True and accurate. But it's like I don't know. I feel kind of the same way about it as I do the remake of Assault on Precinct 13, which is like, yeah, it's not a total loss. It's not like the Total Recall remake or like the.
I feel like I was
RoboCop
like one of the few
remake.
people who I think I was one of the few the original cast that actually did like the Denzel Tony Scott Man on Fire.
I like that movie.
Like even
yeah.
like
I love the second half of that movie. The second half of that movie kicks ass. It's just it
Like,
takes way too long to get there. That's all.
But really, they're the ones that I like actually actively like. Like I don't even like think that Crimson Tide is that great. Like
You know, like
it's,
Enemy of the
there's-
State.
No,
That
not
movie's
really.
so fun.
Like,
Beverly Hills
yeah.
Cop 2.
Enemy of the State. Beverly Hills Cop 2 is the one that no one likes, unfortunately. But I mean,
No, it's better. No, 3 is the one no one likes.
oh, well. I mean, I think like
although
How much time do you want to spend with Judge Reinhold, Joe? Because 2 is the one nobody remembers because it's so similar to the first one.
We did give Eddie Murphy the chance to tell a reporter that Landis had a better chance of working with Vic Morrow again than he did with him. So that's a pretty fucking good burn.
well, there you go. Yeah, there
Much
you
like
go.
the burn that John Landis gave to those children because he was a child
Oh
murderer.
boy.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
uh-huh.
anyway,
Merry
I was
Christmas, everyone.
I
Except
was
for
gonna
John
go to
Landis,
bed and
who
joke
should not
that
have
we'll.
a Merry Christmas.
I'll see you guys next time when we cover Crimes of the Future. But I guess we could do. I guess we could do the Last Boy Scout instead. That's
I-
fine. Whatever.
I will come back for both of them.
I would say I would
Okay,
definitely
good.
talk about Crimes of the Future. As I think I said this privately to you,
'Cause there's
Eric,
a
but
lot
not.
of action in the Crimes of the Future, just
So-
not the kind that we usually cover on this
Yeah.
podcast.
If you want to see Leia Sadu sensually lick like a zipper
I
in a
do.
man's stomach, that if I
do
got a
wanna see
movie
that.
for you,
It turns out.
but also that a friend of mine saw that movie before I did and said, I don't know if this is the best David Cronenberg movie, but it is the most David Cronenberg movie. And that feels right. So
I think I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet because my theater going has been very limited this year because of.
well, Bryce, if you want to see Leia Sadu sensually lick a zipper in a man's stomach, have I got a movie for you?
I wanted some stomach. Thank you very much. Just
I
not
did-
any man.
It's true.
I did read a review that put the message of Crimes of the Future is that boomers filled with lead are better than zoomers filled with microplastics, and that's truly the crux of the film. Then, like, the Bravo,
It's not
Bravo.
far off.
Yeah, it's not far off. If you want to be like uncomfortably turned on by things you're not sure you should be turned on by, like that, have I got a movie for you?
That is, in fact, the Cronenberg.
That's the Cronenberg. That's the.
That doesn't say what you're telling me is it does what it says.
It's
Yeah,
it definitely
yeah.
feels like he made that movie just as like he just was like, I still got it, bitches. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I could still do this if I want, and then he did the thing.
I
So.
keep going on his
yeah.
IMDb page. He apparently has one more set up. So
Actually,
yeah,
this-
we just
that-
switch over to filming.
That is one thing I wanted to say about this movie that I until just now didn't get around to, which is
Yes, please
basically
connect this to Crimes of the Future, please. Thank you.
this is a worse version of A History of Violence.
Very true.
Yeah, but I mean that movie's actually good.
right. Yes,
Um,
true.
But one thing I'll notice for posterity, since obviously film historians will be crawling back through these, but what we were talking about Fury Road and impossible movies getting shot, and I gotta give credit to Coppola for getting Cosmopolis or not Megapolis actually before the cameras. That motherfucker is shooting. And that thing has been threatened for longer than Fury Road. So, bravo! Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I actually still what's the one that his son directed where he's like it's like about an assassin who like takes on like he like possesses people, possessor.
Yeah, that movie with all the possessing.
Yeah, I found my way
What was
to it
that called?
eventually. Yeah, okay.
James Remar is the second build star of that movie, so
Yep.
I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
He's got Brandon's got a new one out right now, I believe too.
yeah. Well, I need to see his
All right.
last one, I guess, before I see his new one. But and I feel like what I've heard about his movies is that he's like kind of a second-rate version of his dad. But I mean, I really like his dad's movies a lot, so I'll take it, I guess. I'll watch Possessor and get back to you. So, but yeah, I think that's about it for this installment. I guess we'll try to come back in January for Last Boy Scout or Crimes of the Future or an extremely weird double feature. I don't know, something. But yeah, that was the action
In all
cast.
fairness, a double feature of Crimes of the Future and The Last Boy Scout might be this podcast's soul. So.
That is true. That is extremely true.
Put that on our site.
I feel
Bastards.
I feel like we need a John Carpenter movie in there, really, though. 'Cause John Carpenter was the patron saint of the action cast. But all right, well, to all but like one person who sat through this. Oh, there's 3 people watching now. So, yeah. But that's it. We'll be back next month, hopefully.
Sometime,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Night, everybody.
Good
I
night.
gotta go lick some surgery wounds.